right, guys, welcome everybody to tonight's live stream. We started working on this one last week, or week before last, our last session. I thought that this one might be great to just continue working on. We'll work on the leaves. If I can find my reference photo. And then if we have time, I have a little saying at the top. It says, "Hello, pumpkin." That might be kind of cute to add at the top, but I just need to find my reference photo. So one moment, please. I have it here. Oh, goodness. Oh, there it is. All right. Alrighty. I have it. Sorry about that. I moved it while I was working on the text. Okay. Hi there, Night Owl. Hi, Mina. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Steve. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Terry. Steve, I'm doing well. We're all doing well. Thank you. Lisa, thanks. Yeah, the haunted house. So I can show you guys now my haunted house project. This is the one that I put on social media recently. And this was a very fun project. A little bit stressful just because I basically burned this in about a week, less than a week. So my hand was definitely fatigued and challenged, but this was such a fun project, you guys. Hi, Cap, Sarah. And it started off as just a haunted house. And then you can see here, I added this skull, which was really fun, and it turned out so great that I thought I would add something different down here. And if you're familiar with the Predator movies, that's a predator skull. And I thought there's only one creature that I know of that can kill, humans and predators in the movie world, and that would be an alien. So here we have our little alien guy back here. He's kind of cruising through the forest. This is his retreat, and if you're familiar with the movies of Alien, they have those horrible little alien pods, and out pops the yucky little face huggers. So you can see in relation to my finger, that is very small and quite the challenge to wood burn, but this little face hugger thing jumped out of the egg and just attached onto the first thing that was about head size, and that would be a poor little pumpkin. Anyway, it was not really designed to have the alien theme to it, but my sons love the alien movies, and one thing led to another. So thanks, guys. This is 11 by 14, so it's quite big, and I was able to get lots of fun little details in there. So moving on to our pumpkin, which is a whole lot simpler than the haunted house. Thanks, guys. Alrighty. So here we have our wonderful little pumpkin, nice and rounded. I actually used this as a reference for all the pumpkins that I made on there, because I think there was over 20 pumpkins to wood burn on that haunted house theme, which was a bit of a challenge. I was definitely tired of making pumpkins at that point. All right, so I'll zoom in here a tad, and we'll start working on some leaves. I'm going to move me kind of out of the way so you guys can see the leaves. And where is, oh, there's my tape. Pumpkin soup. Yes, absolutely, Mina. All right. So there we go. I think you guys can see everything that I need to see. And we'll get focused. Okay, there we go. All right, so these leaves are quite simple. We do have the vein work in the center of the leaves. Sometimes it's kind of like a highlighted area, like a negative burning area. You can scratch that out and then just burn over the top of it, and maybe on some of these I'll show you how to do that. Usually I just burn around that center stem, but that can be a little bit of a challenge, so I'll show you how to scratch around them as well. In fact, I can just do that now. So you'll want to use something like an awl, anything pointy. You can even use a Dremel tool if you're comfortable with using those. And I am going to gently scratch and indent the wood here from the tip of that vein, from the tip of the leaf all the way down the vein towards the bottom here. And we'll just make a little indentation in the wood. This is definitely more of a beginner route if you want to create fine lines or highlights in your project. It's so much easier just to take a moment and scratch these out and then burn over the top of them. The more advanced technique would be to carefully burn on either side of these. So that's a bit more complicated. I'll go ahead and add in a couple of these while we're here. And we'll just burn over the top of them. Do one more here. Okay. Oh, you guys are talking soup. That all sounds good. I made a pot roast tonight, which was quite tasty. All right, so when you're wood burning leaves, try to focus on some of the darker areas first. I'm going to burn in kind of the crease areas where the leaves may appear folded or otherwise overlapping. And then we have some more of the darker veins. It's going to look a little bit speckledy, not really speckledy, but not very good to begin with, but we'll just keep at it. Once we add some shading, it'll all pull together. Terry, yes, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you find this information helpful. I teach a weekly live stream every Friday where we work on a variety of different skill level projects. And then every other Monday I am here with a beginner live stream where we focus more on simpler projects. So I am using the Walnut Hollow Creative Versa tool right here and just the shading point. I am also using a little green bean bag to help support my wrist and get my hand a little bit higher up above the wood. The Versa tool has a very long post to it, so you're not able to grip a pencil. Like a pencil, you're able to grip very close to the point, whereas the Versa tool, you can't quite get that close. So I find that propping up your hand definitely helps to get your hand in the proper position so you don't get that fatigue in the wrist. So just a light outline around our leaf. Hey! Hello? Hello? Check for the kitty, please. Thank you. Is she in? Okay, thank you. So a really nice light outline, and then we are gently adding in the vein structure, and then we'll hit it with a touch of shading and we'll call it good. Some of these ones down here have like a darker vein in the middle. Alright, now that we have kind of the structure of the leaf put in there, I'm going to add just a touch of shading over the top. And we should burn right over the top of these center veins, and they will stay more highlighted. So indenting the wood like that is a great little trick to create any fine lines like that are really light, like whiskers or wispy hairs on a portrait. It definitely saves a lot of time. I'll also add a touch of shading kind of on the lower areas of the leaf. I feel like it might be curled under. And then anytime that you have an overlapping element where like parts of the leaf look like they're over the top of each other, I'll make those areas a little bit darker too. So see, now we have that nice light vein in there for the leaf. And we did not have to meticulously burn on either side and go through all that trouble that I normally do. And you can always go back and touch areas up and add a little bit more shading. Remember that anytime that you burn something that's dark, it's going to look like it's pushing farther away from the viewer, whereas a lighter value will appear closer to the viewer. This is a great opportunity to turn the wood instead of trying to burn like I am right now. get kind of into a more comfortable position. So I hope everybody is having a wonderful first week of November, which is amazing that we are already into November. It seems like this year just got started. Mina has a question. Have I bought any of the shader points with irregularities that might scratch the wood? Yes, I have. I know that many years back, Walnut Hollow did have a change in the way they manufactured the shading points. At least that's kind of what I thought. And sometimes you can get little burrs or sharp edges. Sorry there. See, like this one here has a couple ridges down the center, if I can get the light just right. There, now you can see kind of that center ridge there. If you do have a shading point that has some rough edges, which they can get in manufacturing, just take some sandpaper, some really fine grit sandpaper. Like here's a 1500 grit. This would be perfect. And just make sure that your burner is off, and then start sanding this down. If you do have bigger burrs or edges that are really raised, switch to a lower number grit, and that'll be more rough, and then you can start kind of sanding that off. Once you get everything nice and smooth, then go back up to a higher number grit and just kind of polish it and make sure that you take off any irregularities that might have shown up from the sandpaper itself. So yes, you can get some odd manufacturing defects. It's really rare, but it is possible. But these brass points are quite soft, so hitting them with sandpaper is definitely the way to go. And if you're sanding and sanding and sanding and it doesn't look like it's changing, switch to a lower number of grit, and then make sure it's nice and smooth, and then go back up in grit to the higher number and polish it up nice and smooth. So that is the nice thing about the points being brass, is that they are easily adjusted, and you can change the shape and kind of modify them to suit your needs. You're welcome, Mina. All right. Alrighty, moving on to our next little leaf. We'll outline it lightly. I generally don't put heavy outlines around my subjects. As beginners, I know that's something that we tend to do a lot, and that's okay. So if you are a beginner and you're just starting out, you can outline this a little bit more if that's what suits you. I just try to make a little bit more of a natural look to them, to my subjects, so I don't always go really heavy on the outlines. All right, once we get our defining areas, I will add just a touch of shading, and then we'll add some darker areas for more depth. Lisa says you are still struggling to get your darks dark enough. Do you have a tip on how to overcome this? That's a good question. Normally I almost have to force myself to go darker. Like even right now with our pumpkin, there's definitely areas that are not dark enough, I don't think. So I would say go back over it again and just force yourself to really push past the dark area. Sometimes you can create kind of like a little cheat sheet of shading and get the darkest value that you possibly can. Again, here's my book. I'm going to look up at our shading scale here. Here we go. So you can make a little shading scale like this for yourself and then use it to kind of compare your value onto your piece of wood. This book actually at the top of it, you can see there, each page has that shading scale on there, which is really cool. I'm glad that they did that. So you can overlay the shading scale onto your subject and kind of take a look and see what value you have for different areas. I don't know if many people knew that about the book, but that's super handy. Take this and place the darker area over your area that you want to make darker and just realize that, yeah, I'm not dark enough yet. So take this and just really force yourself to burn darker. Another thing is to go slower. It's easy for us to get in a hurry, and that first pass when you add the darks down, it's like, wow, that looks plenty dark enough. I would encourage you to go back after you would burn an area and reburn it. Start at the darks and then work your way back up the shading scale just to make sure that your darks are dark enough. And be brave. I know a lot of times we're afraid to go too dark. It seems like that's a common, it's like two sides of a coin. One side of the coin is we don't go dark enough as wood burning artists. The other side is we go way too dark too fast, and then we have a hard time blending it out afterwards. So finding a balance in there is good. But anyway, I hope that helps. Make sure that you don't have any carbon buildup on your point, because that's going to make it really difficult to get those dark values. And burn in layers. Go back and burn it again and burn it again until you're able to get that darker value that you're after. Lisa says, I really thought it was dark enough, but when I took the picture, I know it's not dark enough. Yeah, it's a struggle, and it adds a lot of time because you've already created the project and now you have to go back and basically burn it again. One thing that I did on the haunted house, I was drawn to that piece because of the vivid contrast. It was very highly contrasted. Like the darks were super, super dark. And I wanted to capture that essence in the project. And so what I did with that piece, which is a little bit different than what I normally do, is I would work in sections, and I would, let's see, I just burned the chimney, completely did the chimney. And after I did the chimney, I went back and I burned it again and made the darks darker. And then I burned, I think, this section of the roof, and that's all I focused on. And I just stayed with that until I pushed the darks about as dark as I could possibly go. And then blended everything out to where I was happy with it. And then I would move on to another section. And I think then I did the center part here. Same thing. Really pushed my darks. And then tweaked it until I was happy. And then I moved on to the next stage. So if you do a big project like this, it can be daunting because you burn it too light and then have to go back and burn the whole thing again and again. So by focusing on a little postage stamp, a little smaller area, and making sure that that area has the best contrast that you can get before moving on, I think that allowed me to burn this much faster than I normally would have created a project. So maybe burn more of like a keyhole kind of a a viewpoint. And then just keep working on it until it gets dark enough. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Alrighty. Because that's something that that I've struggled with a lot too, is not going dark enough, and I'll do the entire picture and then I realize that my darks aren't dark enough and I have to do the whole thing over again. So I found it was actually easier to do that same process but with little waypoints, little snippets. And it allowed me to see the project come together faster. And part of that is just being brave and bold and hoping that it's all going to turn out, which it normally does. So just jump on in there. Alrighty, I have to move this. Because see, like right now, I know this pumpkin is not dark enough. But you just have to burn it again and make sure that your darks are dark enough. And so I can go back in and add this. So I think part of being able to burn dark with confidence comes from just practice and being comfortable with understanding that you can always go darker, but you can't go lighter, and finding that balance in there. It's okay. Come on. No. Get back. It's all right. Come on over here. Over here. Good girl. Right there. It's all right. Lay down. It's okay. Good girl. It's all right. No. It's okay. That's it. It's all right. Lay down. So moving on to the next leaf. Hey. Hi. The dog is getting concerned.
I can see that.
Thank you. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have any other questions. Steve has a question. Will there be a 2025 calendar? I have been thinking about that the past couple days, and I need to take a look and see if I have enough artwork to make that happen, because I do usually put out a calendar, and I'll need to take some pre-orders for that if people are interested. And hopefully I have enough artwork over the past year to make that happen. I was gone over the weekend and I'm trying to play catch up as far as office work. I got a lot of good stuff done in the office today, so I will take a look at that calendar this week and make a decision by Friday as far as the calendar. But good question. We are, I think, on our November month of the calendar, we have some of the users' pictures. So some of our supporters, they sent in submissions and I added their artwork to the calendar too. Steve, you'd like a calendar? Okay. I bet I can come up with enough artwork one way or another to make a calendar. Now, anytime I have overlapping items such as the pumpkin and the leaf, I do want to make it a little bit of a value change here to where the leaf is going to be in the distance. It's going to be behind the pumpkin, so I'm going to make it look a little bit darker. Alrighty. Here we have a few little leaves over on this side. So part of our beginner live stream is go ahead and throw out questions if you have them regarding either this subject or anything else, and I can kind of walk you through any tips as far as what you're trying to create. If you're having a problem with a certain piece of artwork right now, let me know, and we'll see if I can't help out with that tonight. Hi, Vicky. Thanks. I'm glad that you liked the Haunted Mansion. That was such a fun project. I waited a little bit too late, and I basically burned that in a week, which made my hand very unhappy, but I was glad to see it through and to get it done. All right, so we have our outline, gentle outline, and we have some of our key features. And then add a touch of shading. Yeah, the Haunted Mansion, that was definitely something different than what I normally create. But I just had to make it. I loved all the details. And like I said before, the contrast was really something that I wanted to capture. Okay. And we'll see here as far as how much time we have to add in the text on the project. I'm looking at this pumpkin stem and thinking that I really want to darken it a little bit more. Okay. Lisa is asking about the Yuli watercolors. Did I put gesso down first? I did not add gesso first to the Yuli watercolors. They, generally I will add gesso to a project if I'm working with a lot of water, like a wash, where you put water down first and then drop color in, and it creates kind of that really misty, moody background there. Then I will add gesso to the project. But just adding a few little highlights of the Yuli watercolors, I did not add gesso. Very good question. Vicky says, you've taught me to push my darks. When I see you push them darker, it really makes the burn so much better. Thanks. I agree. Yeah, it's definitely something that you have to, I have to force myself to, I keep saying push them darker. You got to go more. Your values aren't quite there yet. So it is kind of an intentional thing to make these values a little bit darker than you think they need to be. And again, with wood burning, it helps to go darker than you think just because of the fading aspect. Wood burning is done on a once living entity, and it changes over time. So to help resist the fading, definitely burn darker than you think it needs to be. Over time, it'll kind of settle out to where you kind of initially thought it should be, and doesn't fade so much. Hello, Raphael. So like these leaves right here, you can see I've burned them, but they are nowhere near dark enough, so you've got to go back over and adjust them a little bit. And I would rather you burn a little bit too light to begin with and then go back and push your darks intentionally than just throw in dark values with wild abandon, and then you're like, oh my gosh, well that area is way too dark, and then you have to try to kind of play catch up and blend it out later. So lighter is best, and then go back over and intentionally darken up the areas that you need. And then use your artistic license as well. The values here are pretty close to the reference photo, but I do want to make my leaf in the background just a little bit darker to show that overlapping. And darker values will push back. So by just touching that up a little bit, now it looks like the leaf is kind of more behind the pumpkin. Kind of like that. Hello, Wayne. Welcome. Vicky says it's like looking at a paint chip. When you pick the lightest color on the strip, you should really have picked the next one up. Yeah, absolutely. Because when you lay down a dark value, you're judging that dark value against the unburned wood. And then once you add all the shading, it's like, oh wow, well that's way too light. So you have to kind of go back and hit it again. I think there's also a little bit of an optical illusion to shading. Colors will look, colors and values will look different when they're next to different valued or colored items. If I were to hold a white piece of paper against this, it would completely change the values. Thanks, Wayne. So yeah, value is funny, and it depends on what you have around it too. Alrighty, so here we have the first little bit of the leaves on the pumpkin, and we'll go down here and work on the ones at the bottom. All right, now these ones down here are definitely darker. I'll zoom out just a smidge. Come on. Why are you not? Oh, now, yeah, there we go. And I will move me again to the top. So everything down here is going to be darker because it's at the bottom of the pumpkin, and the pumpkin is kind of casting a bit of a shadow on all of these leaves. So this is going to take us a little bit longer than the leaves up top. Not too much longer, I don't think. Once again, I'm going to go through and try to lighten this up a little bit. Add in our vein structure here, just with a little sharp awl. This one has some other little wispy veins off to the side. And if you don't have an awl, these are available on my Amazon store. So you can get those there too. Now, one thing to be mindful of when you're going to sketch or kind of scratch in a light value and it goes into the shadows, try to not scratch very deep back up underneath here. You can make your lines a little bit thicker in the light, but as they recede into the darkness, you're going to want to make those lines more shallow. You don't want to dig down so deep. Otherwise, it'll be too bright in the shadows, if that makes sense. Ooh, this is a fun one. We have a nice highlight here. Thanks, Mina. Mina added the link for the awl. Whoa, that one got away. Let's see, we could probably add, I think that's probably good for right now. Maybe a little bit on this one. So nice and light, I'm not scratching down very deep right there, and as I come more into the light, I can indent and scratch a little bit deeper. Okay, so that's our highlights kind of laid in first. All right. So we have a little leaf here. It's kind of sideways. It's fun. Thanks, Raphael. And now I'm realizing that my pumpkin's not quite dark enough, but that's okay. I'll add a little shading to that later if we have some time here at the end. Okay, so we can add a nice dark line under this wispy, it looks like a tendril of a vine. And bring it up underneath there. And then I'll probably add a little bit of a dark line on top just to make that tendril stand out some more. All right. Hi, Himmin artists. Welcome, Himmin artists. Thanks for joining our live stream tonight. We are working on a wood burning of a pumpkin with some leaves. We wood burned the pumpkin on our last session, and now we're just adding some more work into the leaves here. So yeah, I usually just kind of outline and then add some of the base details there, and then we start in with our shading. This is where having the vein kind of scratched out is helpful, because we can burn right over the top of it and it should stay highlighted. Alright, moving on, our next little leaf. So once you kind of analyze the leaves and break them down as far as how to create them, they're quite simple. And then you just repeat your same process each time with each leaf. But I find that anytime that I'm trying to wood burn something new, a new subject or a texture, if I just sit and really look at it for a little bit and try to break it down as far as how it's created, it allows me to get kind of a game plan as far as how to create that illusion, because that's all we're really doing, is creating an illusion of a pumpkin and leaves. It's all three-dimensional subject onto a two-dimensional piece of wood. Thanks, Vicki. All right, so this one here is going to be quite dark underneath the pumpkin, so I'm going to put in a really nice dark area here and then kind of fade it out as the leaf is exposed to the light as it's coming out from under the pumpkin. Wayne, you just started wood burning a truck. That's cool. But that'll be a fun project. Old trunk and a pumpkin patch. That's awesome, Wayne. I bet that'll be a lot of fun. pumpkins are a lot of fun. I just wood burned a whole bunch of them, so I'm a bit pumpkined out right now, but they're so unique and very three-dimensional. They're a lot of fun to create. All right, so this leaf down here is underneath or behind the other ones, so I want to create that nice separation of value to where my overlapping subjects are definitely sitting on top of each other here. So by pushing this unburned leaf darker than the ones we already did, it will help to push that back a bit more. Definitely, Wayne. Yep, pumpkins are a lot of fun. Alright, so you can see we burned our light shading over the top and we skipped right over that vein, which is super handy. You can even burn a little shadow along the underside of it like this. That helps for a little bit more depth. And then we can go back and just darken up our darks a little bit more. So let me know if you guys have any other questions as we're working along here. I'm going to just kind of pull some of this dark area down in a little bit of a gradient. And that'll give the illusion of that shadow. I also want to add a shadow over that center vein so it looks a little bit more natural too. Hey.
There's something in the bathtub. I was going to use the shower. What do you want me to do?
Dump them all into the toilet and throw the bags away. Thank you. There we go. And so I made the leaf try to look like it's a little bit rounded, and in order to create that illusion I'm going to have it darker at the top where it's in shadow, and then a slight gradient downward, and then the very tip of the leaf is also going to be a bit dark, and then I'm going to have a gradient flipping upward. So that'll make it look like it's kind of rounded. Okay, next up, let's go for this little guy here. Again, I really want to push the dark underneath the pumpkin. And we have a few veins here. It's kind of an odd shaped leaf. Like that. And then pull our gradient downwards. Alright, this is a beautiful leaf down here. Once again, this one is going to be behind the others that we've created, so it's going to be very dark back in here. And in this case, as far as the values, I know that this is going to be very, very dark. So I'm not going to waste my time putting in a light value or a mid-tone in here. I'm going to go right to the darkest that I can get. And that will save me time when it comes to kind of fixing things later. So definitely go about as dark as I can here. This is one of the darkest areas of the piece, so I'm not afraid to go too dark. I do want to add in a few more little veins here. We have one. Here and one over here. Okay. Realistic pumpkin. Thank you, Himon. Yeah, this is a fun project. Very round, plump pumpkin. Thank you. You rinsed it? Oh, perfect. Just set it by the door. Thank you. Terry has a great question. What's the pressure that I'm using on the awl? Light, medium, or heavy? I would say it depends. I would say pretty much all of it. Most of it is light to medium pressure. Some of the areas here where I don't really want to press down very hard, that vein is going to be kind of tucked in shadow. You can just really gently go back and forth and create a nice line. One thing that I would recommend that you don't do is using a really, really heavy stroke, because if you press down really, really hard, the grain of the wood is going to influence your point. You know, going across can sometimes be difficult. I would start out more light and then slowly adjust it. Like if you want to create a curve, you're going to want a lighter pressure, light to medium, as you start kind of creating a track, like a groove to stay in. If you just press down really hard and then try to do that again, a lot of times you're going to jump your track, if that makes sense. So start with a lighter pressure to start with, go back over it again and again and again until you get your track established, and then you can go back over and start pressing down harder, and you'll probably stay in that line and not jump the track, if that makes sense. Wayne is saying that my burner is a wire tip and you're thinking about getting a solid tip burner. They both have their benefits for sure. I really prefer the solid point burners. They are more even heat, more consistent heat, at least for me. I know that a lot of people use the wire tips and they do a great job. I started with the solid point burner and it seems to suit me best. But it's fun to experiment with the different types of tools. I'm certainly not going to tell everybody that you should pick one way or the other. I know that there's many different styles and many different artists out there, so feel free to explore and find which one works for you. You're welcome, Terry. Yeah, the wood grain is definitely going to influence that awl. So light pressure until you get your little track kind of started, and then you can press down a little harder. Okay, so we've outlined the next one, and we'll add in some of our structure. And I like to add a little bit of a shadow underneath our indent. This is not the easiest position for me. You can see that line's pretty gnarly there. Not very even. I can probably clean it up a little bit here. Okay. Wayne says it just seems that yours slide and shade better. I think so too, that the solid points do. Like we talked about earlier in the video tonight, if your point doesn't slide really nice, you might have some burrs or sharp edges on the point. So take the time to look at your point before you fire it up and just check for any sharp edges or burrs or little pieces of metal that may have gotten damaged, like a ding or an indent that will scratch. I would recommend, like, if I've been using this same point for many years, and it's really smooth on all of the edges. So if I were to switch to a brand new point, I would hit this with sandpaper, really fine grit sandpaper, a lot, and just kind of round off any of the edges that might be a little bit, you know, kind of maybe sharp or just more edgy, and make it smoother. All right, once we get our structure in there, I'm going to add a couple more little wispy things here. Then we'll add some shading. Okay, so there are our light midtones, and we'll go back and start pulling our gradient downward and create some more midtones and darker midtones. I also want to add a little bit more shading at the tip of these leaves, again to make them look like they're kind of a little bit bending forward. And then just pull that gradient upwards and pull this gradient downward. Leave it light in the middle, and then you'll have your rounded leaf. Hey. Terry, you're still having a hard time getting used to the wire or the solid point burner. Yep. You know, it's so different for different people's grip and their hand styles and all that. That's why I think it's fantastic that there are so many different types of wood burning tools out there, so people can find the one that works best for them. Let's pull some of the shadow down across the leaf. All right, that's starting to look a little bit more natural. Now you can see this is where some of those the lighter veins in the middle are too light. So watch where I shade over the top of this one, and I'm going to try to make it look a little bit more in shadow, and it's not going to be quite as noticeable. We want our highlights to disappear in the shadows just as much as everything else. So that makes it look just a little bit more natural. Alrighty, so next is our leaf at the very bottom of the project. So this one's going to be quite dark at the upper part. Still, we'll go ahead and add in our little structure here. And then make it quite dark as it recedes underneath the other leaves. Now we're going to bring that shadow down. And if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially subscribe and then click the notification bell, because then you'll be alerted to whenever we have a scheduled live stream, and you're welcome to jump in and ask questions and get some direct feedback for wood burning, whether it's a simple question or a more advanced one. I'm here to just kind of show you what's possible with wood burning and break it down into some more simple steps for you. And this is our 5th beginner live stream, and then we have 112 other live streams of a variety of different skill levels, and those are all posted over on our paid community called Mighty Networks, and the link is in the description below, and I know Mina can throw that link in the chat for you too. So if you're interested in more videos like this of all kinds of different skill levels from beginner to advanced and beyond, there's lots of content there. Another great perk about supporting me over on Mighty Networks is that you get the pattern for free. So whatever project we're working on, you get the project reference photo and the pattern for free, which is really nice, and it just kind of goes hand in hand with the project. That way you're able to create your own version and then watch and follow along. And with all of the live streams hosted over there, that's just a huge resource. You can watch those live streams at your leisure, watch along at your own pace. You can pause them and go back and forth. So it's really a fantastic area to check out if you're wanting to learn more about wood burning. And there's also a community feed on there, kind of like a Facebook feed where you can visit with other artists and ask questions. You can share your artwork and chat with me directly. So there's a lot of great features over there, definitely worth taking a look at. So Mina's got the link there in the chat, and you can always take a look at the bottom of our description for that link too. And your support over on Mighty Networks helps me to create these live streams here on Facebook for free, and just try to reach more people and help everybody learn. Thank you, Himon. So we're almost done. This is our last leaf here. Lisa, you also have a hard time with this tip. Yeah. I know I'm not using it like I think the way it was designed to be used, but it's definitely been the best one for me. There is another, like a razor tip point that I like, that I've modified significantly from its original form to make it more user-friendly, and that's one that I can work with pretty well. But anything really with a sharp point to it, I struggle with creating the wood burnings that I'd like to create. I need definitely a softer, more rounded point. All right, let's add some shading here. And then follow that up with some nice dark shadows. All right, I think I'm going to have to turn the wood on this one because that is an angle that I just can't get to with my hand. Okay. Let me readjust here really quick. And once again, I want this lower edge here to be a little bit darker to make it look like the leaf is folded over. The upper part is going to be mostly just a light mid-tone in there. And then a lot of our shading is going to be on the bottom side of the leaf. Wayne says sometimes it feels like the type of wood, you find that it makes it more difficult to burn on. I agree. Definitely pine is really hard to burn on. I think the combination of pine and a wire tip burner is a big challenge for me. Basswood is fantastic wood. That's what I'm working on right now, and it allows just a nice, soft, even texture, consistency, platform, whatever, surface is the best word to work on. Basswood does not have any pine or pitch to it. Any sap, so it burns very consistently. So let's go back to where we were. I think I'm going to add a touch of shading at the upper curl of this leaf here to make it look like it's kind of curled under. Okay. So let's zoom out here and take kind of an assessment on our pumpkin project. Thanks, Mina. Oh, my camera is getting tired. All right, so that's looking really quite well. I would definitely darken up the pumpkin and make some changes to that. I can probably do that here. So my question to you is, do you want me to kind of rework the pumpkin a little bit and darken up some areas, or do you want to see me add some text to the pumpkin? So shading or text, and we'll kind of go from there. While you're deciding that, I will get some scissors so that I have what I need. So I don't know about you guys, but scissors are always some of the things that run away in my house. Scissors and tape always tend to disappear. Okay, so we have a couple text ones and some shadows. Okay, I forgot to show you that I measured out the size of my project here, and then I put the text in where I wanted it and printed it out, and then I'm going to cut this out. I might be able to do a little bit of both text and shadows. We'll see. And that is another thing that you could do with this project, is add like some drop shadows behind the leaves. I'm probably going to keep it simple and just leave it like this for now, but I definitely want to tweak the values a little bit and push those darks a little bit darker. But let me see if I can't do both really quick. So here I have my text, and it's fitted to the right size. And just to make sure, you can always lay it on there and then flip back and forth and just make sure that yes, that your text is going to fit. So I do have a video out on how to use graphite paper, and that's what we're going to be using here in just a second to transfer on the text. Wayne, yes, basswood is definitely more pricey. I found that out as well. I think it's worth the price, honestly, but I know everybody is different. Sometimes you can get basswood from a sawmill or like a local source instead of going directly to the store. So you might check around at your local hardware store or your local lumber yard. Especially if you live kind of in the Midwest of the United States, it can be easier to find basswood. Oh, that's blurry. I can't do that. Come on. There we go. Thanks, Mina. Yeah, these fonts are kind of fun. So I have my piece of paper taped on. You saw that I added tape at the front and one on the side. This keeps it from walking, because if you just tape it in one spot, it can shift from side to side, and you don't want that. So here's my graphite paper. You can use it many, many times. You can see I have lines from other projects on there. You're just going to take your graphite paper with the shiny side up and that dull side down, and slip it underneath your piece of paper here. And I generally like to work with a red pen. And oh, Wayne, you looked at Michael's and it was $30 for a 12 by 12 piece? Yeah, that's too much. Wayne, take a look at walnuthollow.com. I have a discount code. If you use my discount code Minisa15, Mina can throw that in the link is in the chat as well. Use my discount code on Walnut Hollow and save you 15% on their wood pieces. As long as you buy like $35 of wood or more, they'll ship it for free too. So Michael's can be really expensive. I would not advise, sorry to all the Michael's fans out there, but I would stick with Walnut Hollow. They have a great selection. So Mina put in the link there to Walnut Hollow. Go to their site and use my discount code and save you some money on that. 15% is pretty cool. But when you combine the 15% off and the free shipping, it definitely helps. Okay, Vicky had a great question as far as where you're located. I don't think they ship to Canada. Darn it. Okay. They never used to ship to Canada. They might now. It's worth taking a look to see. Yeah, it's easier if you're in, they still don't ship to Canada. Okay. That makes it more of a challenge then. Yeah, that makes sense why it's so expensive there then. Yeah, if you're in the US and you're in the Midwest region especially, it's easier to get basswood. Yeah, definitely look into it, Wayne, and see if you can't find any other resources. Take a look at Amazon. Amazon should ship to Canada and can help you out as well. Vicky, you say that when you buy it, you ship it to a friend in Arizona and they bring it home to you. That's really cool and very handy. So if you can't get on directly to Walnut Hollow, take a look at Amazon. I do have an Amazon store. The link is in the description. Or if Mina wants, she can add another link there for you. I do have some of my favorite selections of basswood, and hopefully Amazon usually ships to Canada. So with my graphite paper, I'm just tracing over my lettering, and then you can see underneath it leaves a little bit of a line for me to follow later. This is how I transfer on all of my projects and patterns. You can freehand the text if you like to do that. I know some people are very great at like calligraphy. I'm not. So Terry's asking if you get 15% for the first time orders plus my 15%. I don't think that they double up on the discount codes. So it wouldn't hurt to try. I mean, you could try it. I don't know that they would do that. I think normally it's just the one discount code. But still, 15% is pretty darn cool. Anytime that we can save a little bit of money, it's helpful. Vicky says you can also buy some basswood from Bear Woods in Canada. That's good to know. Thank you, Mina, for the Amazon link. And full disclaimer that if you buy something from Amazon through my shop, I do get a little bit of discount, or not discount, like a commission. They send me a little bit of money back on your order. It doesn't cost you anything extra. Amazon just sends me a little bit extra. out of their pocket. It's not a lot, but it helps pay the bills. And same thing with the Amazon code for, not Amazon code, the discount code for Walnut Hollow. I get a little bit of a percentage back from that as well. So it helps my art, and I thank you very much. Alrighty, so normally for text, I like to use the mini flow point, and I forgot to turn it on, so I'm going to turn that on right now. It's not even plugged in. Hold on. I have all my, as I stab my camera. Okay. So while I'm waiting for that mini flow point to warm up, I can get in some of these tighter little nooks and crannies here with my shading point. This is where I just love this point because it is very versatile and allows you to create just a really nice crisp line. The mini flow point is nice, but it cannot get in some of these really tiny areas. So I will still go in and add the finer tight spaces with this shading point. I definitely flip the wood when it comes to text. Some of these areas are so fine and thin that if you try to burn at them from one side, it can get just too fuzzy. So I like the text to be nice and crisp. So I'll work on it from this side and then I'll turn it over and work on it from the other side. I forgot to put in the centers of my L's here. So I'll just kind of add those in freehand. Okay. Oh, Vicky has a great thought too. If you do shop at Michael's, Michael's usually has a 40% discount coupon. So 40% off of any one item, though. It's usually one item. So if you're looking to buy like the Walnut Hollow Versatool, use your 40% coupon off to get the tool. That's a great way to save some money as well. Okay. You can see the nice fine lines that you can get with this point. You just have to kind of rock it up and get it into the kind of a higher position. And then same thing with these crisp corners. The shading tool is great for this as well. So it's kind of fun when you just shade on the one side, it makes the text look kind of 3D. And you can completely burn the text with just the mini flow point. But again, I find that like the corners up in these areas here, where you have those nice tight corners, it tends to be just a little bit more rounded because the mini flow point is very rounded. Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to hit the corners up here. Alrighty, now we'll go ahead and turn the wood. Okay. Oh, that's better. Terry, you're holding your breath while I'm outlining. Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely, you need a steady hand for the text. So I'm not very chatty right now either. Just trying to focus on these fine lines here. Definitely don't want to do this if you are sensitive to caffeine and you have a lot of coffee. I was working on my big haunted house project and had a bit too much coffee that morning, and I was trying to create some lines. Fortunately, it was down in the rock work, and my lines were really bad. They were very jaggedy, so I had to kind of push the coffee off to the side to stay focused on the rest of the project. Alright, so there's some nice outlining there with that lower part. And you certainly don't have to outline the text. You can just dive right in with a larger point and make the text the way that you want. I find that outlining it first gives it just a nice, real crisp look to it. So it's kind of a personal preference on my part. Alrighty. So I would imagine that our mini flow point is warmed up and ready to go. So after you get the lettering kind of blocked in, then you can go back to a bigger point and fill in the middle. Now, compared to my hand here, this text is fairly small. It's, small to medium sized. If you have larger text, then I would encourage you to outline it with the mini flow point and then fill it in with the flow point. And that would be this guy here. So outline with the little one and then fill it in with the flow point. If I have really small text, I'll do exactly like you just saw me. I will outline it with the shading point, and then I'll fill in the text with the mini flow point. Terry says I'd probably have scorch marks on all sides of the letters. Well, and that's the thing, why I go with a smaller point, because if you just dive into a small area with even this mini flow point, you can wind up with scorch marks on either side. Mina says text could be hard for you. Okay. Yeah, it just depends on like the text and how it's configured. Some text is more difficult than others. None of these text letters here have feet. So the feet make it more difficult if you have, like, say the letter P like this, and then sometimes they have like the little feet on them, and like the feet and the angles like this. Those are really a challenge that I've found. Not only do they have feet, but they have ankles too. So that text I think is really difficult. These ones are a little bit more simple. If you're wanting to start adding text but you're unsure on how it will look, I would say stick with the script font like this, like a handwritten font. This is much more flowing, and it allows you to, if you do have some mistakes here or there, or some areas that are a little too wide or a little too narrow, it's fine. You won't even know. Terry, I said ankles, like, feet and ankles. So this is font with feet and ankles, and then this is font with, like, just feet. I think it's something that my mom said a long time ago as far as how she didn't like font with feet. I like font with feet, but then you get feet and ankles, so it's all a different kind of a font. So if you're new to fonts, definitely stick with the handwritten scripty stuff. It will be much easier for you to wood burn than this kind of font down here. Because you can see the script up here, it varies in width, it's wider, it's more narrow, it flows a little bit better. Whereas this stuff has to be more of an even thickness all the way through to look more like it's supposed to. I think I did a wood burning of a poem once for someone. It was a memorial piece where the person that wrote the poem had passed away, and their family asked to have it done, and there were some little pictures at the bottom, and it wasn't much bigger than this. I think it was 8 by 10, so that was definitely a challenge to work on script so tiny. This one isn't too bad here. Okay, so there is our script font. And we still have time to work on, well, that's cute. I like that. I try to leave areas open sometimes to add fonts and sayings if you want. So I'm going to flip this upside down, and I am going to work on the butt of the pumpkin because it definitely needs to be darkened up a little bit. Okay. Thanks, Vicki. Yeah, that's a fun way to make nice, crisp text. So I definitely see some more shadows along the inside of this leaf, and I'm going to darken up the pumpkin on this part here. And remember that shading is just mostly gradients. So if you can make something go from dark to light, you can do shading. I just want it nice and dark here at the top, and then I'm going to pull that darkness down and let it fade out. That's all we have to do for our shading. Thanks, Vicki. Thanks, Mina. And just allow our dark value to get lighter gradually, slowly. Now here at the very bottom of the pumpkin, you can see I have kind of a light line right here. I want to keep that because that's what's called reflected light. At the bottom of the pumpkin, there's some sort of light bouncing up, and you can still see that edge of the pumpkin. You can either keep that little light area or not. You can shade it out if you want. I'm going to leave it there and just make it ever so subtle to where you can still see some light coming up from the bottom of the pumpkin. Thanks, Vicki. You guys like the fine details. That's awesome, because this is my favorite part as well, and I always thought that people would get too impatient watching me kind of rework areas, but this is totally my favorite part of the project because it's pretty much done. You could walk away at any time and it would be done, but I like to spend a little bit more time just pushing those values a little bit darker and blending out some areas, making my midtones just a little bit richer, a little bit darker, and give it a wonderfully well-rounded appearance. Get the full range of the shading scale in there. Yeah, Terry, yeah, the smooth shading, just keep practicing with it. The point makes a big difference. So does the type of wood. Another thing that can really change the way that you get smooth texture is your downward pressure. If you're inconsistent with how hard you're pressing, it will be very splotchy. So try to keep a really even, consistent pressure when pressing down on the wood. I noticed that's even more extreme with a wire tip burner. As far as how hard you press, it almost burns down into the wood and then skips up and over. So definitely check your definitely check your pressure when working on your smooth shading. And then layers always help as well. You can smooth out some inconsistencies here and there if you add in more layers. So if you're new here and you don't know what layers are, just like burn it lightly and then go back and burn the whole thing again and burn it just a little bit darker and just overlap. Every time you burn the whole thing again and just build up your shading in layers. Now, even though I have this highlight here, I don't want it to be really noticeable, so I'm going to hit it with just a little bit more shading to make it more subtle. You can still see it there, but it's going to be subtle. And then same thing around up and over this leaf here. I'm going to darken it up some more. Terry says, I try to keep thinking that this is just a pencil with heat. Yes. And that helps you think to use it like a pencil, like you're drawing. Absolutely, yeah. Just like when you're drawing with a pencil, how hard you press with a pencil can drastically change the way that the lines look. So if you don't have a consistent, even pressure with pencil, you'll get kind of a similar result with wood burning and have it be a little bit more inconsistent. And I have had a lot of fun with pencil drawing. The blending is so much easier than wood burning. Wood burning, I think, is more difficult than pencil work. I don't know if you agree, but I find that you can rough in an area with pencil and just blend it out with like a cotton ball or a Q-tip or a Kleenex and just make it so nice and smooth. Whereas with wood burning, we can't do that. We can't move graphite around. We can't make it really nice and smooth very easily. It takes time and layers, and then slightly offsetting your shading a little bit each time. That helps as well. You do, yeah. Terry, drawing is so neat. Gosh, I think it's been a few years now, like 4, since I did much with pencil drawing. Hey. But it is a lot of fun. Yes, Terry, and you cannot erase with wood burning. Makes it much easier with graphite where you can just kind of lift out highlights. I'm kind of getting out of the frame here. I think I'm going to go this way. That pot roast is ready. All right, and just hitting this bottom edge here a little bit more. Now, if you make a really big mistake, I have found that you can kind of erase wood burning with sandpaper, a really rough sandpaper, or especially the this Mono Tombow eraser is great. It's basically an eraser made out of there's sand in it. It's a sand eraser. It's used for ink, but it does work for wood burnings as well. It kind of changes the surface of the wood, but if you make a really big oops, you can sand down your wood burning with one of those. And those are on my Amazon store as well. Terry, have I shown you any of my pencil drawings? It's been a while, but I know that I have some, I think, on Instagram. I'm pretty sure that I have some on Instagram. But I can probably find one to show you here because I think our pumpkin is about there. Woo! Okay, let me refocus here for you. Cool. All right, oh, Terry, you're not on Instagram. Okay, let me jump over there really quick. I think I probably have them on my, Facebook too, but I know that I posted those. It's been several years, but, so here was one of the first ones that I did. I'm not sure, that's not a very good picture, but I don't know how I can make it bigger. Anyway, there you go on that camera. So there was one of my first pencil drawings with some beads and some roses. And then I did a birdie on a branch trying to learn the background. And then I did like a little jar right there. So just some simple stuff like that. I think that's most of, and then I started a project of Abraham Lincoln in his chair, the monument. So I did one of those as well. But it's been a while. Oh, and then I also have one that I don't know how many people have seen this one, but it's pencil drawing, but on wood. And you can actually draw quite well with pencil drawing on with graphite on wood. So this was kind of a fun experiment. I added a little bit of paint there, something that I'd like to experiment with again. As long as your wood is sanded super smooth, you can do graphite on wood, which is really neat. Something you might want to try, Terry, since you do a lot of pencil drawing anyway. It can maybe be something fun for you to try. All right, well, thank you so much for everybody joining me tonight. This is part 2 of our realistic pumpkin. This is a wonderful three-dimensional subject to really work on your shading. If you missed out on the first part of this, you can go back and rewatch the first part of the video with the pumpkin. This tutorial is on Mighty Networks, along with many, many others. So if you're looking to up your wood burning skills or just learn something new, you get the patterns and the instruction, and you get a great community as well. So definitely take a look at supporting me over on Mighty Networks. Terry is asking, can you lightly burn over the graphite? I have heard that you can. I did not on that one. There was an artist that was doing some incredible work when I first started on Facebook, and he's since passed away. But he created some really unique stuff with watercolor paper, graphite, and wood burning. So combining them where he would actually burn over the graphite. I don't know exactly how safe that is. Something to be mindful of. I usually just tell people burn on unfinished wood only, or watercolor paper. I don't think burning over graphite is really going to cause you a problem, but err on the side of caution and just be safe if you decide to do that. But it makes a pretty interesting kind of a technique and end result. Yes, and Mina, there are other great benefits to supporting me on Mighty Networks. You get discounts on the patterns over at Wood Burning University. So if you're looking for something new to create, definitely take a look at Wood Burning University. Just pop on over there really quick. Take a look. We have close to 400 patterns of varying difficultiness. So some really easy ones, some more difficult ones, and everything in between. I have a lot of holiday projects and patterns on there for Christmas. Just go take a look at it. You'll be amazed, and there's so many fun things to take a look at over there. So woodburninguniversity.com, and then Mina put the link into our Mighty Network platform as well. So if you would like to support my art, which I would really appreciate, join us over on Mighty Networks. Alrighty, guys. Thanks so much for being here tonight. And I will see you all again on Friday for our Friday night live stream, where I will continue to work on this big guy. So our steampunk Sasquatch is coming along quite well, and we are going to continue working on this Friday. So this is definitely one of our more advanced projects, but don't worry, we'll break it down for you, and you can watch the other videos over on Mighty Networks. All right, thanks again for being here, guys, and I'll see you next Friday. Good night.